Have you ever wondered why some women seem to have an irresistible, magnetic power over men? Why they can make any man beg for attention while others desperately fight for crumbs of affection? The answer might shock you. It's the women who have been deeply hurt. Carl Jung said that there is no birth of consciousness without pain. And when it comes to the dating game, this pain transforms into something far more powerful than any seduction manual could ever teach. Today, we're diving into the darkest and most fascinating psychology of feminine transformation, how emotional pain awakens dormant archetypes and transforms ordinary women into true masters of male psychology. If you've ever been hurt by a man and feel that something changed in you, something more calculating, more intuitive, more powerful, this video will explain exactly what happened to your psyche.
The primordial wound, how pain awakens the feminine shadow. There's a moment in every woman's life that marks a before and after. Jung would call this the encounter with the shadow, that instant when brutal reality shatters our most cherished illusions about love and relationships. Maybe it was when you discovered the messages on his phone, or when you realized he was lying while looking directly into your eyes, or when he simply disappeared after months of promising a future together. In that moment, something dies inside you. It's not just trust. It's an entire version of yourself, the woman who believed in unconditional love, who gave the benefit of the doubt, who loved with an open heart. She literally ceases to exist. Jung described this process as the death of the naive ego. It's when our psyche, in an act of self-preservation, activates mechanisms that have been dormant since ancestral times. Think of it as an emotional security system that's only activated in extreme emergencies. For thousands of years, the women who survived and thrived were those who developed the ability to read between the lines, detect lies, and protect their emotional resources. Pain doesn't just awaken this primitive intuition, it sharpens it like a blade. Suddenly you begin to notice things that previously went unnoticed. The tone of voice when he lies, the body language when he's interested in someone else, the behavioral patterns that reveal his true intentions. It's as if a veil has been removed from your eyes. You're no longer seeing the world through rose-colored romantic lenses. You're seeing the raw reality of power dynamics in relationships. Jung would say you're integrating your feminine shadow, all those aspects that society taught us to repress: distrust, manipulation, strategic calculation, aspects that, when properly utilized, become powerful tools of self-protection and conquest. But here's the secret that few women understand. This transformation isn't a curse, it's an awakening. It's your psyche evolving to a higher level of relational consciousness. The hurt woman isn't a broken woman. She's a woman who finally awakened to her true power.
The alchemy of transformation, from victim to strategist. Medieval alchemy had a fundamental principle: transforming lead into gold. Jung used this metaphor to describe the individuation process, how we transform our most painful experiences into wisdom and personal power. When a woman is deeply hurt, a fascinating psychological alchemical process begins. The raw pain, the emotional lead, goes through a series of transformations until it becomes strategic gold. The first stage is what Jung called nigredo, total darkness. It's when you feel completely destroyed, questioning everything you believed about love and relationships. Many women get stuck in this phase, endlessly ruminating on the pain. But those who evolve move to albedo, the whitening. It's when you begin to see patterns, not just in his behavior, but in all the men who have passed through your life. You realize that betrayal wasn't an isolated event. It was part of a masculine behavioral pattern you simply didn't know how to identify. Here, something revolutionary happens. You stop personalizing the pain. It wasn't because you weren't good enough. It wasn't because you did something wrong. It was because you didn't understand the rules of the game they were playing. And then comes rubedo, the reddening, the final phase of alchemical transformation. It's when you not only understand the rules, but decide to play better than them. The woman who emerges from this process is fundamentally different. She has developed what I call strategic relational intelligence. She can read a man like an open book, his insecurities, his fears, his deepest desires. But here's what's truly fascinating. This transformation doesn't happen through study or theory. It happens through the integration of painful experience. Pain literally rewrites the neural circuits responsible for social perception. Neuroscience studies showed that relational traumas activate the insula, the brain region responsible for intuition and reading subtle social cues. It's as if pain calibrates your emotional radar to detect threats and opportunities with surgical precision. The transformed woman no longer needs to guess what a man is thinking. She simply knows. She no longer needs to beg for attention. She understands exactly how to awaken obsession. She no longer needs to fear abandonment. She knows how to make a man fear losing her. This is true feminine alchemy, transforming vulnerability into invincibility, naivete into strategy, pain into power. Jung said that what you resist persists, what you embrace transforms. The woman who embraces her pain and uses it as fuel for evolution becomes a force of nature in relationships. If you are recognizing this transformation in yourself, leave a comment sharing what moment marked your before and after in relationships. Your story could inspire other women going through this awakening process.
The awakening of the inner femme fatale, mastering male psychology. First, Jung identified several universal feminine archetypes, but there's one that remains taboo in our society, the femme fatale. Not the superficial Hollywood version, but the deep psychological archetype, the woman who understands and masters male psychology. When a woman goes through the transformation process we've described, she doesn't just awaken her intuition, she activates this dormant archetype. And here's what's fascinating. She doesn't need to become manipulative or cruel. She simply understands the rules of the game at a level few can achieve. Let's be brutally honest about something no one wants to admit. Men are predictable creatures. They operate through psychological patterns that have been shaped by millions of years of evolution. The woman who has been hurt and transformed learns to read these patterns like a map. First, she understands the fundamental paradox of male psychology. Men want what they can't have and devalue what they obtain easily. The naive woman fights against this reality. The transformed woman uses it to her advantage. She learns the art of what Jung would call absent presence, being present enough to spark interest, but absent enough to maintain mystery. It's a sophisticated psychological dance she executes almost instinctively. Second, she understands that men are driven by ego and competition. The transformed woman never again begs for attention. She creates situations where he needs to compete for her. She understands that perceived value is more powerful than real value. Third, she masters the language of strategic emotional detachment. This doesn't mean becoming cold or insensitive. It means not investing emotionally until he proves his worth through consistent actions, not words. The woman who has undergone transformation develops what I call intention radar. She can distinguish between a man who is genuinely interested and one who is just playing. She identifies love bombing, future faking, and other manipulative techniques from miles away. But here's the most powerful aspect. She learns to use her own vulnerability as a strategic weapon. Jung spoke about the sacred wound, how our greatest pains can become our greatest strength. The transformed woman shares her vulnerability in a calculated way, creating intimacy when it's strategically advantageous. She understands that men are attracted to women they perceive as prizes, not necessarily the most beautiful, but those who demonstrate high standards and options. She cultivates a rich and interesting life that doesn't depend on male validation. The true modern femme fatale doesn't destroy men. She elevates them or discards them based on what they bring to her life. She doesn't play to hurt, she plays to win. And winning for her means attracting and keeping only men who add real value to her existence. Jung said that knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of others. The woman who integrated her shadow through pain has developed a deep understanding of human nature that makes her practically irresistible. She no longer needs to pretend to be someone she is not to please others. She has become someone so interesting and valuable that men naturally want to make an effort to impress her.
The game master, transforming trauma into competitive advantage. The woman who was hurt becomes a true master of the relational game. Jung would call this complete individuation, when we fully integrate our painful experiences and transform them into operational wisdom. The game master isn't a bitter or vindictive woman. On the contrary, she's a woman who has transcended pain and now operates from a place of authentic power. She understands something fundamental that most women never learn. Relationships are, essentially, power games disguised as romance. This doesn't make love less real or beautiful, just more strategic. The first competitive advantage she has developed is what I call red flag radar. Her painful experience calibrated her intuition to detect warning signs that other women ignore. She identifies narcissists, players, and emotionally unavailable men on first dates, not after months of emotional investment. But here's what's truly powerful. She uses this information strategically. Instead of simply avoiding these men, she categorizes them. Some serve for casual fun, others for networking, others are completely discarded. She never again confuses category with serious relationship potential. The second advantage is her mastery of the attention economy. She understands that attention is the most valuable currency in modern relationships, and she has become an experienced investor. She knows exactly when to invest, when to withdraw, and when to cut losses. The game master has also developed what Jung would call the transcendent function, the ability to maintain multiple perspectives simultaneously. She can be vulnerable and strategic, loving and calculating, authentic and performative depending on what the situation requires. She understands that different men respond to different versions of her, and she has the psychological flexibility to adapt her presentation without losing her essence. This isn't falseness, it's advanced emotional intelligence. But perhaps the most powerful advantage is her transformed relationship with rejection. The woman who is deeply hurt and healed has developed psychological immunity to rejection. She understands that when a man rejects her, he's actually eliminating himself from a valuable opportunity. This shift in perspective is revolutionary. Instead of asking, "Why doesn't he want me?" she asks, "Why should I want someone who doesn't recognize my value?" This mental inversion makes her practically irresistible, because men sense when a woman genuinely doesn't need them. The game master has also mastered the art of timing. She knows when to approach and when to withdraw, when to be available and when to be scarce, when to show interest and when to demonstrate indifference. She understands that relationships are like dancing. It's about rhythm, not just steps. Jung said that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. The woman who transformed her pain into power used every disappointment as data to refine her strategy. Every man who hurt her involuntarily taught her something valuable about masculine nature. But here's the final paradox. The more strategic she becomes, the more authentic she can be, because she no longer needs to pretend to be perfect or hide her imperfections. She knows that her authenticity, combined with her strategic intelligence, is an irresistible combination. The true game master doesn't play to destroy. She plays to create relationships where both win, but where she will never again be the only one to lose. She has transformed her greatest vulnerability
into her greatest strength. And perhaps most importantly, she has broken the cycle. She will never again be the woman who gives everything and receives crimes, who ignores red flags for love, who accepts less than she deserves out of fear of loneliness. Jung was right. There is no birth of consciousness without pain. But for the woman who embraces this pain and transforms it, what is born is something extraordinary, a version of herself she never imagined possible.
If you've made it this far, you probably recognized at least part of this journey in your own life. And if you haven't gone through this transformation yet, you might be wondering if the price of pain is worth it. The truth is that this transformation isn't optional for women who want truly balanced relationships in the modern world. Romantic naivety, however sweet it may be, is a luxury few can afford. 3 practical tips to accelerate your transformation. Document patterns. Keep a diary of masculine behaviors you observe. Patterns reveal intentions better than words. Practice strategic detachment. Before investing emotionally, observe actions for at least 3 months. Words lie, behaviors don't. Cultivate your independent life. Become so interesting and fulfilled that relationships are complements, not necessities. Remember, you're not becoming a worse person, you're becoming a more conscious person. And consciousness in relationships is power. The woman who integrates her pain and transforms it into wisdom doesn't just improve her own life, she raises the standard for all women around her. If this content resonated with you and you want to continue this journey of awakening and transformation, subscribe to the Whispering Wisdom channel. Here we explore weekly the deepest aspects of feminine psychology, conscious relationships, and personal power. Click the subscribe button and hit the bell to not miss any insight that could revolutionize your love life. Your transformation is your personal revolution, and every revolution begins with awakening.